For privacy reasons, names and places have been changed. This story is inspired by true events.
On the crisp autumn morning of October 12, 1994, 45-year-old Isabel Edwards left her home in Beacon, New York, for a hike with a friend at Breakneck Ridge. She stepped off the trail to capture a photograph of the breathtaking Hudson Valley vista, and was never seen again. Despite an extensive search involving local authorities and volunteers, Isabel Edwards vanished without a trace. For 30 agonizing years, her family lived with the unbearable weight of unanswered questions. Then, in the spring of 2024, during routine trail maintenance, a chilling discovery was made: a single hiking boot, buried deep in the earth. This is the complete investigation into what happened to Isabel Edwards. Before we continue, let us know where you're watching from, and if you enjoy this content, consider liking and subscribing to our channel. Now let's continue. Isabel Edwards, a vibrant 45-year-old English teacher, possessed a deep love for the natural world. Weekends often found her exploring the rugged beauty of the Hudson Valley, her camera always at the ready to capture the breathtaking vistas. Breakneck Ridge, with its steep climbs and stunning views, was a favorite destination. She often hiked with her close friend, Rachel Bennett, sharing a passion for the outdoors and a comfortable camaraderie. On a crisp autumn day in 1994, the two women set out to conquer Breakneck, eager to witness the vibrant fall foliage. The trail, known for its challenging terrain, wound its way through dense forests and rocky outcrops, offering glimpses of the Hudson River far below. As they ascended, Isabel, always the photographer, spotted a particularly picturesque vantage point slightly off the main path. She told Rachel she wanted to capture the view and would catch up shortly. Rachel continued on, expecting to see Isabel within minutes. Those minutes stretched into an hour. Concern gnawed at Rachel as she retraced her steps, calling out Isabel's name. The dense woods offered only silence in reply. A growing sense of panic set in as Rachel realized her friend had vanished. The sun began to dip below the horizon, casting long shadows across the rugged landscape. With a heavy heart, Rachel descended the mountain and contacted the authorities. The initial search for Isabel Edwards began as darkness enveloped Breakneck Ridge. Police officers, park rangers, and volunteers combed the area, their flashlights cutting through the inky blackness. Search dogs strained at their leashes, their noses to the ground, searching for any trace of the missing hiker. A helicopter circled overhead, its powerful searchlight illuminating the steep slopes and dense foliage. The rugged terrain and fading light hampered the search efforts. As the hours passed, the hope of finding Isabel dwindled. The beautiful landscape that had drawn her to Breakneck Ridge now held a chilling silence, a stark contrast to the vibrant woman who had walked its trails just hours before. Isabel Edwards had vanished without a trace, leaving behind a haunting mystery that would linger for decades. The disappearance of Isabel Edwards launched a full-scale investigation by the New York State Police. Detectives from the nearby Fishkill barracks immediately began interviewing those closest to Isabel. Rachel Bennett, understandably distraught, recounted the events of the day, emphasizing the point where Isabel had left the trail to take a photograph. Investigators scrutinized her statement, searching for any inconsistencies or signs of deception. Family and friends painted a picture of Isabel as a responsible, experienced hiker, making her sudden disappearance all the more baffling. They cooperated fully, desperately hoping for any information that could lead to her safe return. The search of Breakneck Ridge intensified. Teams of investigators meticulously combed the area, inch by inch, looking for any sign of Isabel, a discarded piece of clothing, her camera, any indication of what might have happened. The challenging terrain, however, made the search painstakingly slow and difficult. Despite their efforts, no physical evidence was found. No signs of a struggle, no footprints leading off the trail, no personal belongings. The lack of evidence only deepened the mystery. In the absence of concrete clues, investigators explored various theories. Accidental death was a primary consideration. Could Isabel have fallen from one of the treacherous cliffs? Had she become disoriented and lost in the dense woods? The possibility of an encounter with wildlife, though less likely, couldn't be entirely ruled out. As days turned into weeks with no progress, suspicion inevitably fell upon Rachel Bennett. As the last person to see Isabel alive, she became a focal point of the investigation. Detectives questioned her repeatedly, probing for any details she might have overlooked or withheld. The stress of the situation, coupled with the intense scrutiny, took a toll on Rachel. While she maintained her innocence and cooperated fully, the cloud of suspicion lingered. The lack of evidence, however, meant there was nothing concrete to connect her to Isabel's disappearance. The investigation reached an impasse. Leads dried up, and the initial flurry of media attention began to fade. For Isabel's family and friends, the unanswered questions were a constant source of anguish. The not knowing, the lack of closure, gnawed at them, compounding their grief. Investigators, equally frustrated, pored over every detail, hoping for a breakthrough that never came. The case of Isabel Edwards, once a high-priority investigation, gradually slipped into the cold case files, another unsolved mystery in the vast wilderness of the Hudson Valley. As months turned into years, the vibrant posters plastered across the Hudson Valley bearing Isabel Edwards' smiling face faded, mirroring the dwindling hope of finding her alive. The intensive search efforts that had initially characterized the investigation scaled back, resources redirected to more recent cases. Media attention, once a relentless spotlight, shifted to other breaking stories, leaving Isabel's disappearance a distant memory for most. The case file, thick with interviews, theories, and dead ends, found its place among the grim roster of unsolved mysteries in the state police archives. For Isabel's family and friends, the passage of time did little to dull the ache of their loss. Birthdays and holidays, once joyous occasions, became bittersweet reminders of their missing loved one. The unanswered questions, where she was, what had happened to her, haunted their every waking moment. The inability to properly mourn, to find closure, left a gaping wound that refused to heal. They clung to the hope, however faint, that one day the truth would emerge. The Hudson Valley, a region of breathtaking beauty, also held a darker side, a history of disappearances that whispered through the small towns and hiking communities. Cases like Isabel's, though tragic, were not entirely unique. The vast wilderness, with its dense forests and treacherous terrain, could swallow a person whole, leaving behind little more than unanswered questions and shattered lives. Law enforcement, stretched thin and facing limited resources, often struggled to solve these cases, the vastness of the landscape proving a formidable obstacle. The terrain that had once captivated Isabel, drawing her to its beauty, now seemed complicit in her disappearance, a silent guardian of a terrible secret. The years marched on, each one etching deeper the lines of worry and grief on the faces of those who loved Isabel. The vibrant, nature-loving teacher, the devoted friend, the cherished daughter, became a ghost, a memory fading with the passage of time. The case, once a symbol of hope and determination, seemed destined to remain a cold, unsolved mystery, a testament to the enduring power of secrets hidden within the rugged heart of the Hudson Valley. 30 years after Isabel Edwards vanished, the relentless march of time had done little to erode the rugged beauty of Breakneck Ridge. The trails, worn smooth by generations of hikers, still snaked through the dense forests, offering breathtaking views of the Hudson River. In the spring of 2024, a trail maintenance crew, tasked with improving the safety and accessibility of the popular hiking spot, began work on a section of the ridge not far from where Isabel was last seen. The project involved widening the trail and reinforcing the steep embankments, a task that required digging into the rocky soil. As one worker operated a small excavator, its metal teeth biting into the earth, something unexpected emerged from the ground. Caked in mud and partially decomposed, a single hiking boot, its leather cracked and faded, lay exposed to the light for the first time in decades. The workers immediately recognized the significance of the find. The boot, though battered by time and the elements, was clearly old, and its location, so close to the area where Isabel Edwards had disappeared, sent a ripple of unease through the crew. They carefully extracted the boot from the earth, noting its position and the surrounding soil. The condition of the boot was striking. Dark, almost black stains, likely blood, marred the faded leather. Clumps of matted hair clung to the eyelets, a grim testament to the passage of time and the secrets the boot held. The workers immediately contacted the New York State Police, their discovery reawakening a case that had long lain dormant. The boot was carefully transported to the State Police Forensic Laboratory, where a team of experts began the painstaking process of analysis. Advances in forensic science, particularly in DNA technology, had made leaps and bounds since 1994. What was once impossible was now routine. Scientists meticulously extracted DNA samples from the blood and hair found on the boot, comparing them to the DNA profile of Isabel Edwards, which had been preserved in the case files. The results, when they came, sent a jolt of electricity through the investigation. The DNA from the blood and hair on the boot was a match for Isabel Edwards. After 30 years, a tangible piece of evidence had finally surfaced, a silent witness to the tragic events of that autumn day. But the analysis revealed another crucial piece of information. A second DNA profile, distinct from Isabel's, was also present on the boot. The DNA belonged to an unknown male, raising a chilling question. Who was this man, and what role had he played in Isabel's disappearance? The discovery of the boot, a relic of a decades-old tragedy, breathed new life into the investigation. The hope that had flickered dimly for so long suddenly flared bright, fueled by the promise of answers and the possibility of finally bringing justice to Isabel Edwards and her family. Deputy Stephen Collier, a seasoned investigator with the New York State Police, inherited the resurrected Isabel Edwards case. He approached the investigation with a quiet determination, poring over the original case files, familiarizing himself with every detail, every interview, every dead end. The discovery of the boot, with its irrefutable link to Isabel and the presence of an unknown male's DNA, presented a unique opportunity, a chance to finally unravel the decades-old mystery. Collier knew that the key to solving the case lay in identifying the unknown male. The advancements in DNA technology since 1994 offered a powerful tool that hadn't been available during the initial investigation. The National DNA Database, CODI's Combined DNA Index System, held a vast repository of DNA profiles from convicted felons and arrestees across the country. If the unknown male's DNA was in the system, there was a strong chance of identifying him. Collier and his team focused their efforts on the second DNA profile extracted from the boot. They entered the profile into CODI's, initiating a search against the millions of profiles stored within the database. The search parameters were carefully defined, focusing on individuals with a history of violence, particularly those with a connection to the Hudson Valley area in 1994. The wait for results was tense. Each potential match was scrutinized, cross-referenced with other information in the case files, looking for any connection, however tenuous, to Isabel Edwards. Days turned into weeks, and the initial flurry of excitement tempered with the reality that the search might prove fruitless. Then, a breakthrough. The CODI's search returned a match. The unknown male's DNA belonged to Lucas Henry, a man with a history of assaults and a documented presence in the Hudson Valley region in 1994. Collier and his team immediately began digging into Lucas Henry's background. He was a handyman who had drifted in and out of various jobs, moving frequently between towns and states. His criminal record, though not extensive, revealed a pattern of violent behavior, including several arrests for assault and robbery. While none of these prior offenses had resulted in significant prison time, they painted a picture of a man prone to aggression and impulsive acts. Further investigation revealed that Lucas Henry had lived in a small town just a few miles from Breakneck Ridge in the fall of 1994, placing him in the vicinity at the time of Isabel's disappearance. The pieces of the puzzle were beginning to fall into place. The identification of Lucas Henry, a man with a violent past and a connection to the area, transformed him from an unknown phantom into a prime suspect in the disappearance of Isabel Edwards. The focus of the investigation shifted, honing in on this newly identified individual and the secrets he might hold. The interrogation room was stark and sterile, the air thick with anticipation. Lucas Henry sat across from Deputy Collier, his demeanor a mixture of defiance and apprehension. Initially, Henry denied any involvement in Isabel Edwards' disappearance. He claimed he had never heard of her, had never been to Breakneck Ridge, and had no idea how his DNA ended up on her boot. Collier, however, remained calm and methodical, presenting the evidence piece by piece. He laid out the DNA match, the undeniable link between Henry and the boot found buried near the spot where Isabel was last seen. He detailed Henry's criminal history, his documented presence in the Hudson Valley in 1994, the growing web of circumstantial evidence that pointed directly to him. As the interrogation progressed, Henry's denials became less forceful, his confidence eroded by the weight of the evidence against him. He shifted his story, claiming he had been hiking on Breakneck Ridge that day, but had never encountered Isabel Edwards. Collier pressed further, pointing out the inconsistencies in his story, the improbability of his DNA ending up on her boot by mere chance. Finally, after hours of questioning, the facade crumbled. Lucas Henry confessed. He admitted that he had been on Breakneck Ridge on the day Isabel disappeared. He had seen her hiking alone, slightly off the main trail, and had followed her, intending to rob her. When she resisted, a struggle ensued. In a fit of rage, he had pushed her over the edge of a cliff. The fall, he claimed, was accidental, a consequence of the struggle, not a premeditated act. He had panicked, retrieved her boot as a twisted trophy of his crime, and later buried it near the trail, hoping to erase any connection to the horrific act. The confession, delivered in a low, almost monotone voice, hung heavy in the interrogation room. The truth, buried for so long, had finally emerged, a dark secret dragged into the light. For Deputy Collier and the investigative team, the confession brought a sense of relief, the culmination of months of painstaking work. They had finally brought justice to Isabel Edwards, a woman whose life had been tragically cut short 30 years earlier. The news of Lucas Henry's confession reached Isabel's family, a wave of emotion washing over them. Relief mingled with grief, the bittersweet realization that they finally knew what had happened to their beloved Isabel. The decades of unanswered questions, the agonizing uncertainty, had finally come to an end. While the truth brought a measure of closure, it also reopened old wounds, the pain of their loss resurfacing with renewed intensity. The exoneration of Rachel Bennett, who had lived under a cloud of suspicion for 30 years, brought a separate sense of justice. The confession cleared her name, lifting the burden of suspicion that had weighed heavily upon her for so long. She could finally grieve for her lost friend without the added weight of unwarranted accusations. The breakthrough in the Isabel Edwards case sent ripples through the Hudson Valley community. The decades-old mystery, once a source of speculation and rumor, had finally been solved. The truth, though horrific, brought a sense of finality, a chance for the community to heal and to remember Isabel Edwards not as a missing person, but as a victim of a senseless act of violence. Lucas Henry pled guilty to manslaughter in the death of Isabel Edwards. The courtroom, packed with Isabel's family, friends, and members of the community, was heavy with emotion. During the sentencing hearing, Isabel's brother, Michael, delivered a powerful impact statement, his voice trembling with grief and anger. He spoke of Isabel's vibrant spirit, her love of nature, and the devastating impact her disappearance had had on their family. He spoke of the decades of unanswered questions, the constant ache of not knowing, and the bittersweet relief of finally learning the truth. The judge, acknowledging the gravity of the crime and the long years of suffering endured by Isabel's loved ones, sentenced Lucas Henry to 20 years in prison, the maximum allowed for the charge of manslaughter given the statute of limitations on more severe charges. The sentence, though it could not bring Isabel back, offered a measure of justice, a recognition of the profound and lasting impact of Henry's actions. The resolution of the Isabel Edwards case resonated deeply within the Hudson Valley community. The story, a tragic reminder of the vulnerability of hikers and the potential dangers lurking even in the most beautiful landscapes, sparked renewed discussions about safety on the trails. Hiking groups organized safety workshops, emphasizing the importance of hiking with a partner, staying on marked trails, and carrying communication devices. The case also highlighted the critical role of advancements in DNA technology in solving cold cases. The ability to extract and analyze DNA from degraded evidence, once a distant dream, had become a reality, offering hope for solving other long unsolved mysteries. The story of Isabel Edwards became a testament to the power of perseverance, the dedication of law enforcement, and the unwavering hope of families who refused to give up on their missing loved ones. For Isabel's family, the truth, though painful, brought a sense of closure, a chance to finally begin the long process of healing. They established a memorial scholarship in Isabel's name, awarded annually to a graduating high school senior who shared her love of literature and the natural world. They organized an annual hike in her honor, a celebration of her life and a reminder of the vibrant spirit that had been so cruelly extinguished. They spoke of their determination to remember Isabel not as a victim, but as a woman who had lived life to the fullest, embracing the beauty of the world around her. The case of Isabel Edwards, a mystery that had haunted the Hudson Valley for 3 decades, had finally come to an end. Though justice had been delayed, it had not been denied. The truth, like the persistent wildflowers that bloomed each spring on the slopes of Breakneck Ridge, had finally emerged, a testament to the enduring power of memory, the resilience of the human spirit, and the unwavering pursuit of justice.